Glass art, a research presentation by Makina Hartman. Glass is a versatile material that is used extensively every day. The glass you drink from in the morning, the windows through which you look outside, the glasses that help you see. Glass is everywhere, and humans depend on it for daily life. Glass is remarkable due to its transparency, relatively cheap cost, heat and chemical resistance, and durability, and it is completely recyclable. Despite its mundane everyday use, glass is also a material that can be sculpted and molded into incredible works of art. Glass has been used by humans for almost 4,000 years for decorative and practical purposes. Since then, glass has been adapted to suit many different purposes, and while the process of making glass has been streamlined, its composition is almost the same as the first containers made so long ago. Glass art is something that has fascinated me for most of my life. I can remember walking through the market in Lahaina, Maui, and looking in through the windows of the glass blowers' studios. Glass is a diverse medium of art, and many of the methods require hard work and skill, yet they offer many possibilities for sculptural works. What is glass? Glass is an amorphous solid, which means the state of its matter is between liquid and solid. Its manipulation requires intense concentration and experience. It is made using silica, which is sand made of quartz that is broken down into tiny granules through the influence of natural forces like wind and water. When heated with intense temperatures, the silica melts, and when it cools, it forms glass. Pure silica melts at 1,710 degrees Celsius, and the energy required to reach this intense temperature is impractical for making all glass, and so substances called fluxes are added to make it melt at a lower temperature. The fluxes that are frequently used are soda ash, sodium oxide, and lime, calcium oxide. The silica and the flux, in addition to recycled glass called cullet, are melted together in a special furnace at about 1,500 degrees Celsius to make a glowing red liquid that can be molded into different forms. The glass formula that is used in the modern world is almost the same as the recipe recorded in the 7th century BCE. In order to make colored glass, metal oxides are added to the molten glass. It is remarkable how silica sand, one of the most common varieties of sand found in the world, can be transformed into endless forms with the help of the furnace, knowledge, and expertise. History of glass. The first glass made by humans was created in Mesopotamia about 4,000 years ago. It is unknown exactly how glassmaking was discovered, but its creation was perhaps influenced by metal and pottery working. Ancient glass was used for decorative purposes as well as for practical vessels. It was made by pouring molten glass into molds, known as casting, as well as a technique known as core forming. The Egyptians used glass to create jewelry and were inspired by the colors found in precious stones like lapis lazuli to make blue and turquoise glass using copper and cobalt oxides. Glass blowing was discovered in the Roman Empire about 2,000 years ago and greatly expanded the possibilities because glass blowers could use tools and a blowpipe to create glass items more efficiently than the other methods, which led to more household items being made from glass. By 1291, the artisans in Venice had mastered glassworking techniques and established a center for glassmaking on the island of Murano, the first main glassmaking location in Europe, where the techniques were kept secret and closely guarded. The Venetians discovered how to make perfectly clear glass. Since the discovery of glass, there have been many different methods for working with it, both for practical means and in art. Glass blowing was the main way of forming glass until the 19th century. The glass is melted in a special container in a furnace, and the molten glass is gathered on the end of a hollow iron pipe, where it is manipulated, inflated, tooled, sheared, and spun out or forced. The molten glass has to be consistently moved while not in the furnace, and only has a short time to be sculpted before it has to be heated again. It takes multiple days for the completed glass to sit and cool. Flame working, also known as lamp working, was used as early as 1660 for creating scientific instruments and originally used an oil lamp and foot bellows. Flame working involves heating glass rods with a small torch and manipulating the hot end of the glass with tools and hand movements of the cold end. Kiln-formed glass uses heat and gravity to change the shape of the glass, or fuse the glass together. Some of the methods of kiln forming are fusing, glass slumping, kiln casting, and printmaking, and pâte de verre. As the glass in the kiln heats, it becomes more viscous, or liquid-like, turning almost the texture of honey. And then it flows with gravity to fill the spaces, either between pieces of glass or in a mold. Then, as the kiln cools, the glass returns to solid. In the Middle Ages, artisans used glass to make beautiful stained glass windows for cathedrals, beginning in the early 12th century. Stained glass is one of the methods of cold-working glass, in which the glass is transformed without heat. The pieces of colored glass are scored and separated, and then there are two methods that can be used. The first, traditional method, is where the glass pieces are set in lead channels, and is best for larger work such as windows, as it allows for slight movement from weather. The other method was developed by Tiffany Studios in the United States, and involves wrapping the edges of the glass pieces in copper foil, and then soldering them together to create works like lamps and boxes. Leopold and Rudolf Blaschka were a father-son duo that made lamp-worked models of marine invertebrates and flowers in the late 19th to early 20th century. The marine models of creatures such as jellyfish, octopus, anemones, and sea slugs were created as scientific models and sold to schools and museums all around the world. It is thought that they made as many as 10,000 marine invertebrate models. Coming from a family of glassmakers who made jewelry and glass eyes, they were incredibly skilled, and their models are extremely accurate. They used lampworking in combination with painting, enameling, as well as glass blowing and paper components in their sculptures. The Blaschkas were commissioned to make botanical models for a Harvard professor, and so from 1887 until 1936, they made over 4,300 models, which are displayed in a famous glass flowers collection at the Harvard Museum of Natural History. Dale Chihuly is an American artist who uses glass blowing to create amazingly complex sculptural forms. After losing sight in one eye, he began working with other artists, and he now directs a team to make his visions come to life, in ways that expand the possibilities even further than working individually. Chihuly also was a founding member of Pilchuck Glass School in Stanwood, Washington. I encountered Chihuly's work when visiting the Chihuly Glass and Gardens Museum in Seattle, and was blown away by the breathtaking beauty of his sculptures. The magnificent colors, elaborate forms, and incredibly large size of the sculptures had a strong impact on me, adding to my already strong fascination with glass art. Carol Milne is a Canadian-American artist who uses a method that is described as a variation of the lost wax casting process to create intricate sculptures where the strands of glass are knitted into shapes in order to bring her love of knitting together with her glass skills. Lost wax casting is a method of kiln forming in which a mold is created around a wax model, then the wax is melted out of the mold and glass is melted into its form. Shayna Lieb is an American artist who uses a combination of different glassworking techniques, including a form of glass blowing known as cane working, in which the glass is pulled into long, thin cylinders, as well as kiln slumping, or melting the glass over a form in the kiln, and cold working, or cutting and shaping the glass without heating it. She creates spectacular sculptures reminiscent of ocean life, drawing inspiration from deep-sea diving. William Morris is an American glassblowing artist who makes unique works inspired by ancient global cultures in forms that are reminiscent of wood or stone carvings. He worked for about 10 years with Dale Chihuly before beginning his own artistic practice. Morris created glass sculptures on his own for over 25 years and retired in 2007. Glass is an amazing medium that opens up endless possibilities with the many different methods available for creating sculptures. Its beautiful transparency and diverse colors allow for visual effects unattainable by other materials. It is a medium that has weathered the paths of time, intriguing people for thousands of years in its different forms. Research project. The Light Within is a series of 16 individual glass sculptures made from recycled wine bottle sections, fused together in a hexagon shape using the kiln. The pieces are arranged on a pane of glass that sits on top of a white box containing an LED flat panel light that illuminates the whole sculpture from within. The individual glass shapes are designed like abstracted hexagons, similar to the units of a honeycomb, which is symbolic of community. However, the hexagons are arranged in a manner that is unlike a honeycomb found in nature, because they are not touching and have space between them. This is representative of the current global situation, with the pandemic forcing people to stay socially isolated from one another. However, the piece is also showing hope, because the hexagon is a symbol of communication. All of the individual hexagons are united through their similarities, as well as the light that illuminates them from within the piece. The work shows that even though people are separated, they can unite together and continue to form a strong, connected community despite their distance. The word namaste, which is used in yoga and yoga philosophy, has a meaning of the light in me recognizes the light in you. This represents the idea that every person is connected by the light within, or the spiritual energy that connects all living things to each other in the universe. It is a worldview that everything is connected and not separate, which is strongly reflected in this piece, and shows that individuals are connected regardless of their physical distance. The experimentation that went into this piece was exciting and at times challenging, such as figuring out the correct firing schedule to preserve the structure of the glass, and cutting the bottles into rings without breaking the glass. I thoroughly enjoyed the process, and am thrilled with the final result. Glass is an artistic medium that has fascinated me for most of my life. I find the transparency, liquid-like forms, and complicated, delicate structures to be endlessly intriguing and beautiful. I'm excited to continue playing with the capabilities of glass art and see what I can do with the medium.